I'm
You know what?
aware.
But do you guys know what needs saving more than anything else right now is Daredevil, because apparently it is not doing well in the ratings. So we have this article from Forbes, which kind of breaks down Daredevil's viewership numbers here. And it's kind of interesting because this is all based off of what Disney Plus has released. So we have at the top of the ladder Percy Jackson, the Olympians, who had 13.3 million views in 6 days. And by the way, this is total watch time divided by the length of the episode. That's how they're coming up with these numbers. So at least they're kind of consistent with that. Now, the Acolyte, which got basically canceled for season 2 for poor ratings, had 11.1 million views in 5 days.
That's our fault, though. That's our fault.
Ahsoka had 14 million views in 5 days.
Again, our fault.
Agatha all along, right? 9.3 million views in 7 days.
That's Gary and Brett DeSovic's fault.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's it.
Now, what basically Disney Plus has revealed is that Daredevil Born Again has drawn 7.5 million viewers for its first episode out for the double episode premiere. So they're not counting the second episode. It's just the first episode that has gotten 7.5 million views in its first 5 days. Now, what's interesting about this is that Daredevil Born Again, so first of all, it was meant to be a completely different show, right? It was going to be a 21 episode show. And then during the actors' strike, Kevin Feige took a look at it and was like, this is shit. You need to get back to the Netflix style of Daredevil. So they brought in a whole new team. And now I think it's like an 8-episode season or something like that. And they're having to reuse some of the stuff that the previous showrunner shot. So it's kind of like a Frankenstein's series for Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Much darker, much more adult show than what we have been getting from Disney Plus. And personally, I think the show's been pretty good so far. I mean, there are a few things that you could complain about if you really wanted to, but it feels like a good successor to the third season of Daredevil from Netflix. So I'm a little bit surprised about like how little the viewership has been on it. However, as Smitty has said on his channel, has been unplussed. He unsubscribed from Disney Plus. Dutch Butters unplussed live on the show a couple times. So like I feel like a lot of people have been unplussed from Disney Plus in the sense that so many people are just fed up with the crap that's been being put on there that they have basically cut it out of their viewing habits. So there's probably less people watching, and the people who are watching have it for the family content. So they're not interested in this like dark and gritty superhero tale. But also, I feel like Disney Plus has disappointed so much that people just tuned out. Like, I don't feel like there was any marketing for this show whatsoever. Nobody knew when it was premiering. So like they probably didn't even know that it was out, which could explain like the low viewership numbers. But I want to throw this to Odin. Odin, what is the real reason behind these like really low Daredevil numbers, and should it concern fans of the series?
I mean, it kind of just shows you what has happened to the franchise since it left Netflix. Because I actually talked about this a little on FNT last night about trying to look back at the numbers, because back when the first show, right, when the original Daredevil show came out back in 2015, this was a time when Netflix was really the only major name in the game, if not the only name in the game when it came to like major streaming platforms. And so the information that it was available then is even less than it is now, like, which is kind of surprising because there's like nothing available now when it comes to information about these numbers. But there was some research that was done, and what was interesting to me is that within about the first 11 days of the release of that series, because I think that, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, the entire series was dumped at the same time, like for that binge model, because that was especially like Netflix was known for the binge model, especially at that time.
Yeah, all 13 episodes.
Yeah, exactly. And so they said that roughly 10.7% of the entire user base, which at that time was only 40 million, it's up to 300 million now. But 10.7% of the entire subscriber base had watched at least one of the episodes of the show within the first 11 days. and 2.3% had watched the first episode, or sorry, 2.3% of the entire user base had tuned in on the first day of the release itself. If you compare that to what is currently going on in the series, you look at the 7 million users or 7 million views metric, and that turns out to be about 2.5% of the 300 million that is currently available. And so the fact that that's over a full week, right, and the fact that you think about where that first show started, and again, it built up from there, right? Those were relatively lower numbers because people were interested, intrigued by it, but it was when people started to say, you need to watch this show, you need to binge this show, that it started to actually build and build and build and build. So the fact that the show now is not even getting really anywhere close to where even just the first initial run of the show was when it first came out, before any of the hype really started to build up again within the first 11 days of that first season, it shows you how far off the current season is. And I think that basically what's happened is that the damage that was done with these shows like She-Hulk, where you had these storylines, brought in with Matt Murdock being brought in, the Walk of Shame. You think about Echo and the connections there with Fisk, and all of these things tied in. I think it soured people to say, okay, no, this is not the Netflix one that I liked. This is the Disney version, and the Disney version I don't like so far. I think a lot of people were like, let me wait and see. I'm going to hold out. I'm going to hold back and see what people are saying about the show before actually giving it a shot. And I think a huge issue with this is, if you've seen the first episode especially, everything that was really in the promotional materials that seemed to indicate, oh, this is going to be a return to form. Remember that amazing dynamic that you love so much with the Netflix series? It's like, okay, done within the first 10 minutes. And I think that probably has also kept people from really going back to it, because they're like, okay, so you said and prepare, look, remember Netflix? Remember how great it was? I remember. And then they're like, okay, they're giving us a good show. Like I've actually really enjoyed it so far too. But I hated the first, I didn't want to keep watching after the first 10 minutes because it was a bait and switch to me, because it was like, oh, the whole promotional was about, hey, remember that amazing dynamic? Well, now we're just not going to have that at all. These characters that you loved are gone for the rest of the series, or at least perceivably for the rest of the series. I'm sure they'll come back, here and there or whatever. Again, they've already made the announcements to season 2 and who's coming back for season 2, which makes you scratch your head. But it's just so frustrating. And I think that a lot of people who have not seen it yet are kind of like I don't know if I want to see this because of everything that has happened so far. And there's not a whole lot going on to bring them back into actually want to watch the Disney Plus series.
Yeah, and Tom, one of the interesting things about these comparisons is that if you look at like Percy Jackson, The Acolyte, Ahsoka, Agatha All Along, even Loki, these were all half-hour episodes. So the way that they're calculating these minutes viewed, it might be a little bit skewed, because Daredevil was like, I want to say like 50 minutes for like its premiere like episode. So I'm wondering if this is like an apples to oranges comparison, but also the fact that basically they have renewed Daredevil for a season 2 already. And this season seems to be kind of like a hodgepodge of like trying to take what was already shot and fit it in with like stuff that they want to do and set up for season 2. Seems like a strange way to like do this show. I feel like they probably should have just like started from scratch all over again. What's your take on this comparison with the low numbers that we're seeing from Daredevil?
Tom, I'm going to ask you the same question Matt just did, okay? And then I'll let you take it. So, Tom, tell us your thoughts on the new season of Daredevil.
How hard was that, Matt?
Look, Matt does a lot of research so that we don't have to talk as much.
Exactly.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I do
No.
too. You know.
I mean, I don't, as far as the ratings go, I know some people are making a big deal about the ratings. Like, look, I went and looked. It's actually twice as good as what it did on Netflix, actually, from what numbers I could find. And then the show had a 57% drop after the second season, which is also when The Defenders came out. You also have a show that come out 7 years since the last time we've had a season. And not only that, this show has been shot and reshot how many times now? Since 2020, because like I guess some of the cast members are even dead.
Yeah, season 3 was October 2018.
I guess the guy who plays the White Tiger guy or whatever, I guess he's dead in real life, and he's been dead for like a year and a half.
He passed away after the shooting was
2023.
Yeah, so anyhow, like this show is
Wow.
okay, I guess, from what I've seen so far, but I'm not really worried about the ratings. The ratings are on par with every other Marvel show. It's Daredevil, it's not Spider-Man. And Loki is Loki. See, that's the thing, is everybody's like, oh well, Loki did this well. Loki is the exception. Look at the rest of the numbers compared to Loki. That's because Loki was played by Tom Hiddleston. You had a show called Loki with Loki actually in the show. See, that is a plus. And women
Yeah.
actually like Tom Hiddleston. So that, of course that show's going to do well.
So the men.
At this, yeah, well, some do, like you. But I mean, at this point, I think the show's doing fine. From what I heard, though, which is strange, these first 3 episodes are most of the stuff from the earlier shoots. Post this is when we're going to start seeing more of the newer stuff.
So
So-
the first episode was all new.
Yeah, like some of this other stuff, though, I guess was mostly from the older shoot, was what I had heard. But from
Yeah,
here
the
on out, it's going to
episodes
be
2 and
mostly
3.
new.
Well, what's interesting, Smitty, is that the way that Disney is releasing these episodes, so like because Andor is set to premiere in April, right? They're trying to get all these episodes out before Andor, which means that they're going to be releasing some episodes, 2 episodes a week as opposed to the single week release. Seems like bad planning to me, because it's like, well, if you know that this is premiering, then maybe you should have like released this a little bit earlier. But
Yeah.
what's also funny is that they say that this, in the typical variety spin that Odin called out a little bit later, earlier on in the show, they say that this is the best premiere of the year for a Disney Plus original. We are 2.5 months into the new year,
Yeah.
and this is the first Disney Plus show to premiere in 2025. So that's not really saying much, but
Best of the year.
I-
Best
best of
series
the year.
premiere ever.
Remember they did that
so-
last year with their shows too. They were like,
Yes.
"Oh, that's the best of the year."
Yes,
Just
exactly.
spin.
But compared to the Acolyte, it seems like this is doing far worse than that show, and that show got canceled. But it was also a lot more expensive than Daredevil seems to be. And I know that you've reviewed the first 2 episodes on your channel, Smitty. So what's your take on Disney's strategy here with Daredevil Born Again?
I don't know. I think the show's amazing. I don't get how it could be less viewed than the Acolyte, because that oh my god, that
was
is
our fault.
absolutely dreadful.
I keep telling people it's our fault.
The only thing I can fathom is that it's on Disney, and people went back for the Acolyte, then they got tricked. Then they went back for She-Hulk, and they were like, "You got me again." And then they went back. They just kept going back to all these shows, and they were like, "That's it. I'm done. I'm done. You're
it.
not getting me anymore."
You're
I feel
spot
like
on.
if this was on Netflix, it would be doing a lot better. But I don't understand why this isn't getting more views at all. I've watched both episodes, and it's incredible. The acting by the gentleman who plays Wilson Fisk is awesome, and it looks like it's heading in a direction. Plus, they teased Punisher and Spider-Man. I don't think Spider-Man's going to be in this, but they've teased him anyway. So I mean, there's a lot to look forward to, and just in the first couple episodes, I can't tell that they pulled some stuff from the older show. But I mean, to me, I loved it. I mean, what do you think, Matt? Did you like it?
I'm really enjoying the show so far, but I kind of wish they just release it all and let me watch it at my own pace instead of doing this like weird, funky release schedule that isn't very consistent to begin with.
You don't like week to week, do you? At all?
I don't. But Dutch,
Mm.
you seem to like week to week. So what's your take on these terrible ratings for Daredevil?
Well, I think you got to like the article said, you have to like kind of take into account that it's an adult themed show. It's on Disney Plus. That's not really what Disney Plus's audience is. Disney Plus is for nerds and for kids to be entertained. And this is kind of I feel like Daredevil was kind of a not really a fringe, but not really a mainstream thing. But it was good when it was on Netflix. But I'm not sure if Disney Plus has the right kind of audience to cater to this kind of a show, maybe. And also, like you guys have all said, I mean, season 3 of Daredevil on Netflix came out 2018. I mean, that's that's a lifetime in these entertainment cycles. That's a whole new generation of viewers that are watching these shows, and they're not familiar with the Daredevil stuff. So it's just, especially on Disney Plus. And then there's also, the people like me, like Smitty just said, I've been burned too many times by Disney Plus. I'm not resubscribing for this. So, I'm not saying I'm never going to resubscribe again. There might come a time when, I might resubscribe for Andor, but that's only going to be, they're only going to trick me again. That's what's going to happen. But Daredevil doesn't intrigue me enough to want to resubscribe. So I'm just not that interested in it. So it might be good, but I'm not going to watch it. There's just, it's not good enough for me to give them that $2.99 for the 4-month trial. $2.99. That's $2.99 a month right now. They are begging for new people to come on there and get that service, man. Never seen nothing like $2.99 a month.
Too many people are being unplussed.
It's crazy.
Brian, one of the things that struck me about Daredevil is that they kind of made references to She-Hulk, Echo, and Hawkeye, these other shows. They didn't put too much attention on them, but they did at least acknowledge that they existed. So to bring back these like 3 pretty bad shows, I didn't think Hawkeye was all that bad, but for the most part, like these shows like weren't all that great, and audiences didn't really respond to them. Do you think that could have something to do with why people aren't really resonating with the new Daredevil?
No, I don't think it's the references. I do think that it being on Disney Plus and people are not in a rush to go watch it doesn't mean that it won't do well over time. I haven't seen it, but I plan to. To be honest, though, I'm just going to wait until they're all there. And I think a lot of people have that same sort of mentality. The way I watched the original Daredevil was all at once. And so I don't really want to do the week-to-week thing. So my plan is to wait for it to be done and then go watch it all. And sometimes there's shows like Reacher and stuff where I'm totally down to wait a week. Cool. But this particular show, especially the Marvel stuff, if I'm not reviewing him or talking about him online for like this, then I will just wait for it. And had we not been talking about She-Hulk, I would have probably watched She-Hulk all at once. But it was impossible to avoid spoilers. So, and we were reviewing it, so I did. And I didn't mind She-Hulk as much as everyone else did. The last
She-Hulk
couple
stuff
episodes were garbage,
didn't happen, right? It's completely being ignored for this show.
No, it happened.
It happened.
Yeah.
That's what he's saying. It happened. As far as the other shows and how good they are or whatever, I don't think that really has any bearing on it. I don't think a lot of people watch, like, we watch everything, but not everyone watches everything. There's plenty of people that just sort of watch what they like. And they don't really care for Echo or what was the other one you said? Because I didn't watch that. Hawkeye, whatever.
Hawkeye, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't watch Hawkeye. I didn't even know there was a Hawkeye, to be honest.
Didn't miss anything.
No.
Right. And I don't think I did. And I don't feel, I watch a lot of stuff, but I've never looked at like, I really want to watch this teenage girl fight crime. Yeah, I'm cool.
What is there anything having to do with like Luke Cage and Jessica Jones and all that stuff? The other
there's
shows
talk
that
about bringing Jessica Jones back. So far, Luke Cage
I like Jessica Jones
and Iron Fist are still kind of like in limbo.
Hated Iron Fist. Jeez.
Please no.
But Brian,
back.
you know what was interesting is you said like I'm going to wait until all the episodes are out so I can binge them, and that's usually my way of doing things.
Right.
I think the biggest issue with the low ratings for Daredevil, honestly, is that I don't think anyone knows that it's out yet. There's people who have Disney Plus that maybe like saw like the banner on there when they logged in, or people who pay attention to this stuff, like they realized that it was being released. But my wife, like I told her the other day, I was like, oh yeah, I watched Daredevil, and she's like, you watched it without me? And I'm like, well, I didn't think you were interested. And she's like, I didn't even know it was out. So,
Interesting.
so like a lot of people, I don't think even know that it's been released yet.
Yeah, I mean the poor marketing too. Same thing happened to Severance. Like I didn't even know Severance was like good until like the second season came out. So a lot of these streaming services are really bad at marketing.
Especially Apple.
Yeah,
Apple's really bad at
Apple's terrible at marketing, and
So
Severance is like its most watched show. In fact, they're bringing back Ted Lasso. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
First off, that's
excited.
awesome. Secondly, no, I didn't hear about that. I didn't even know there was a new Mythic Quest until I logged on to watch
Yeah.
Severance.
I know, right? And Apple's got some of the best original series out there, in my opinion. But before we move on, Odin, one of the big controversies about the new Daredevil show seems to be that they're pulling back on a lot of the Catholic imagery and like his Daredevil's faith as like a Catholic and stuff like that. I want to get your take on that before we move on.
I mean, not knowing enough about the Daredevil character, like I never read the comics, and my knowledge of him is very limited to like the 2003 movie and then this series. I honestly don't know exactly how Catholic and how heavy the Catholic themes were in the comics to know as a frame of reference, because there's definitely like aspects of it kind of hinted at certain points. Like he mentions a part of his like education, but it's like usually just brief one-liners versus anything else. So yeah, it's hard for me to really say one way or the other if they've actually been pulling back. It seems about the same as what had previously been there, though.